What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the Marvel edition of the Ragin Nation show. This is just a web series where we talk about all things that matter to me in the world of Marvel films. This is episode number 50. And the first thing we're going to talk about is X-Men. Specifically X-Men Apocalypse, because that is the sequel that is going to be coming out in summer of 2016. And we got a little bit of bad news for some Colossus fans, because it looks like that Daniel Cudmore won't be coming back as Colossus in X-Men Apocalypse. We did see him in, I guess, what would be his biggest role as his mutant character in X-Men Days of Future Past, considering he did quite a bit of battle with those Future Sentinels. We also saw him a little bit in X-Men Last Stand, and a little bit, I guess, what would be a very brief introduction in X2, X-Men United. But there's something very, very common, or rather something very similar about these three appearances. They're all very brief, with little to no dialogue, and also he's just there enough for him to, I guess, for Bryan Singer to really, or rather whoever's directing the film, to please the fans. You know, the fans wanted to see Colossus, they put him in there. But they didn't really put enough of him in there. He wasn't a character who was given a whole lot of screen time, not even a whole lot of dialogue, and I'll be completely honest, I'm not that disappointed that he's gone. In fact, in some cases, you wouldn't even know he was there, especially in X2. All he did was he turned into metal to stop the bullets, and he saved a couple of kids, and then you never saw him again. Very, very brief moment, okay? Then you saw a little bit of him in X-Men Last Stand, and then, of course, you see you see a lot more of him in Days of Future Past. But because I didn't have much of a connection with his character, it really doesn't bother me that he's not going to be in Colossus, or rather not going to be in X-Men Apocalypse. Now, here's the interesting thing, is that he still may appear, perhaps the younger version of himself. After all, this new trilogy, and by trilogy I mean First Class, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse, is supposed to focus on the younger versions of the characters. So it's still possible that he could appear, but it won't be the older, or rather Daniel Cudmore version. Alright, so that's what I gotta say for 20th Century Fox's X-Men franchise. Now let's talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Evangeline Lilly and Orlando Bloom were making their rounds around the red carpet for The Hobbit Battle 5 Armies premiere. And there was a little bit of talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, considering Evangeline Lilly is in Ant-Man. We're going to see her first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in summer 2015's Ant-Man. Lee Pace, who also plays Thranduil in The Hobbit, also plays another character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that is Ronin, the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, within those interviews on the red carpet, Orlando Bloom was also there as well. And he actually suggested that he would be interested in playing a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the biggest things in Hollywood, okay? It's just such a huge entity. And Orlando Bloom wants a piece of that pie. I mean, who wouldn't? Because you're going to be in the ranks of Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans. You know, these are big stars. Chris Pratt. So definitely Orlando Bloom wants to be a part of that, and then if Marvel comes calling, he will be there. So I am actually curious, who do you think, like, what superhero could Orlando Bloom pay? Which one could he play, not pay? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm sure that he could play a number of great characters, and as a matter of fact, there are a lot of characters that we haven't seen yet. A lot of smaller supporting characters, and you know what? As a big star, I think that he could play both a supporting character and one of the main characters in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. So that's very interesting. Another actor who we could see in the near future playing a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Al Pacino. Can you imagine Al Pacino in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? It seems like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the place to be for a lot of actors. It doesn't matter if you're a small actor or a big Hollywood name. You know, it's the place to be for a lot of people, a lot of actors of any caliber. Al Pacino has apparently met with Uber producer Kevin Feige, and he teased that he might appear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a podcast called the Happy Sad Confused podcast. I'm going to leave you the link in the description box below. You can listen to that. And he just teased that he could make that appearance. But who knows who he could be? After all, he's had that meeting with Kevin Feige, and that means something. You know, even if they're just meeting for dinner, where there's no talk of, you know, where he could be, there's going to eventually be that talk where Al Pacino might be the guy who could be playing, I don't know, this character or that character. So I want to ask you guys, who do you think Orlando Bloom could play? And who do you want Al Pacino to play? Or who do you think he could play? Let me know in the comment section below. This is all very exciting to know that these actors are being considered, or possibly can be considered, for a role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, the last bit of news that I'm here to talk about is about the Avengers Age of... No, not the Avengers Age of Ultron, but the Avengers of Infinity War. Part 1 and Part 2, which is coming on 2018 and 2019. Looks like we have our directors. And these directors are no stranger to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They directed the awesome Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier. They're also directing what's going to be a very awesome Captain America sequel. That would be Civil War. And it looks like Kevin Feige wants to see them back after seeing their amazing performance as directors for the Winter Soldier. And that is, they will be directing, the Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony Russo, will be directing the Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and 2. If Joss Whedon is going to be gone after Age of Ultron, I think these guys are the next best thing. The Russo brothers have really proved themselves that they understand comic book superhero storytelling with the Winter Soldier. They understand the story arcs, they understand the universe, and of course they understand the characters, which is very, very important. These superhero films, while they are very visually driven, they are also very character driven. So I'm glad that they're on board for Infinity War, and that is something that is going to be super exciting. If Winter Soldier is a taste of what these great directors can do, imagine what they can do directing the likes of every other Marvel Cinematic Universe character that we've ever seen in the last couple of years. Alright, this is going to be a big task, but it will be great. The films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe have a certain level of quality to them. They always seem to be great films, okay? Both in storytelling and in characters. So you can expect to see a really high level of quality in these films, and I'm looking forward to it, and there you have it. Once again, let me know in the comment section below, who do you think Orlando Bloom and Al Pacino could play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also stay tuned for Marvel Edition episode number 51, because we are going to talk about the Sony hacks. Sony has been hacked, and by Sony, I mean Sony Pictures Entertainment. I'm not talking about Sony Electronics. I'm not talking about Sony PlayStation. I'm talking about the studio, Sony Pictures Entertainment, and there's a lot of really juicy stuff spilled out that we're going to recap on the last 2 weeks of this notorious hack, and it really tells you the future of Spider-Man. And there's some good news, and there's also some bad news. But at the end of all this is a very, very big development in what could be one of the most important decisions ever made in the Spider-Man franchise. So stay tuned for that. Definitely stay subscribed, because there's a lot of great news to talk about. Alright, so as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation, and also follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. For everybody else, I think that Peter Jackson really gets the best performance out of these characters that he's written, or Tolkien has written.